We are here today as part of SAJE initiative, the South African Association for Jazz Education, together with our sponsors, the SAMRO Foundation, South African Musicians' Rights Organization. And this is a special project where we are highlighting the contributions made by certain individuals who have pioneered community music projects that are jazz educators working in the community that have thriving jazz education programs. And of course, one such person in this region, in the region of Pretoria, in Tshwane, is our wonderful and legendary Jesse Mogale, who's here with us today. And we're highlighting the life of Jesse Mogale. And of course, there's a connection between the institutions, between the University of Pretoria. And so in my own personal capacity, I'm wearing two hats today as the outgoing president of the South African Association for Jazz Education, as well as associate professor and coordinator of jazz studies in the School of the Arts at the University of Pretoria. And of course, I'm here with my colleague from the University of Pretoria, Edwin Smith, who's also the manager of the campus operations and head of residence at Tuxdorp, basically the head of the Mamelodi campus aspects of residence. So welcome, Edwin, and it's really great to have you here. And also there's this connection between Edwin and Jesse. They've been friends for years, and Jesse's project is actually housed on the campus, on the Mamelodi campus of the University of Pretoria. So once again, gentlemen, welcome and thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mageshen.
So I'm just going to hand over to Edwin to take over with the interviews, with the interview with Jesse Mogale.
Wonderful. To start off, I guess, I mean, it would be good to start off at the beginning, Jesse, in terms of where does this come from, this music and your association with it. I know you've got family roots. Can you please give us a context and that background before we go into the project itself?
Yes, I would say I come from a highly musical family, and the environment I grew up in, it was a very multicultural society. There was always music at home, music in the neighborhood. So music has been a part of my life all through.
And you also have your very proud and accomplished brother, Moss Mogale, who's been an inspiration as well.
Very much so. My brother, I mean, as I've said, the whole family is musical. Everybody at home played an instrument or sang, but it's only myself and him that performed professionally and publicly. So he's a guitarist. And then he's been my mentor. I learned a lot from him. And yes, that's how it all started.
Now usually, you know, people don't just grow from a young age into playing the double bass. They usually start off with a different instrument, partly, I guess, because of the size of the instrument that you can't be 6-year-old and fiddling with the double bass. How did you end up with your focus on the bass?
I started with the electric bass, and the electric bass was actually the Fender electric guitar converted into a bass. And then my reason for starting on the bass, I actually wanted to play trumpet after seeing Louis Armstrong on TV. And then I thought trumpet would be easy. Unfortunately, the instrument that was always available at home was a guitar. All my brothers played guitar, except for one who played accordion and piano. But the guitar, a bass was always there. So I started on the bass, but quite interestingly, I used to listen a lot of the double bass. And the first person I listened to who I could hear clearly, it was Percy Heath. So I actually transcribed what Percy Heath was doing on songs like Big P on the electric bass. And that went on until 98 or 99. We had a jam session with Bekim Selepu. He visited my brother And then he said to me, you should get a bass, a double bass. You'll play effortlessly because I can hear the way you play the electric bass. You'll play effortlessly and then it will come as easy, you know. And then I went out looking for a double bass. I got my first double bass in my double bass in 99. So, and then I started working on it, you know,
Just
and then
just to finish off your own journey, I mean, you crowned your journey with producing your own album last year, Heritage from an African Continent, which was also shortlisted. You were finalist for the Mzansi Jazz Awards that was just recently awarded. You were a finalist. That's a major accomplishment. What does it mean to you, given the long road you've walked in the music business as an artist and a bass player?
You know, when, I mean, I can say every musician's wish is to be heard. And then few people started listening to the music, which ended up with a nomination. The nomination alone was well, how can I put it? It was a great reward on its own.
Yeah.
Yes. So despite the fact that in the end, somebody won, but for me, the nomination was a great reward and an accomplishment, and also being the first CD that I produced, you know, so that meant a lot. And then it meant that some people out there are listening and the number is growing, you know. It meant a lot to me.
It's a wonderful crowning, but you did not arrive there by accident. Not only have you built your own craft and mastery of the bass, the upright bass, you've also created a community music education program, CAFCA, which you have been managing and running for a number of years. So you've brought others along with you as you've journeyed along your own path. Can you tell us a bit about how you founded CAFCA and organized it, and a bit about what you've gotten right there?
Yes. CAFCA, which is an acronym for Committed Artists for Cultural Advancement, was formed around 98. And the main aim of forming CAFCA, at the time, we wanted to get the artists together around Pretoria so that we can be self-reliant, start creating jobs, start doing workshops. And then when we say artist, it was all-encompassing, the dancers, fine artists, the actors, and the musicians. But in the end, we found that only the musicians stuck around, and the rest of the other artists, they left because there was no funding. And then we used to meet in the city center in a way to accommodate all the artists from Soshanguve, Harangua, Mamelodi, Mabopane, and those that lived in the city center. But we ended up coming back to Mamelodi and then to start teaching at SOS Children's Village for the simple reason that there were children there. And then we could start teaching instead of having endless meetings. And then the reason or the motivation for starting the program of such a kind was the fact that most of us and the generations that came before me, they were never formally trained. So I didn't have formal training, and I learned from musicians that I played with in the bands and through listening to the records. So it's not an easy journey. So we wanted to make it a bit easier for the generations that followed after us, because I mean, as you might be aware, music in our schools never existed. Music education did not exist in our schools. And then most kids like myself, they would end up going to university doing something outside music because they would not have had the necessary background that would enable them to proceed with music in tertiary. So basically, we were responding to a need to have a music education to the disadvantaged children in the Black communities.
But built into that as well, I mean, before we actually formalized our partnership that saw CAFCA becoming part of the University of Pretoria, one of the campus activities with the community, you were also in the business of passing on the cultural and music heritage baton to a new generation, as it were.
Yes, I mean, I don't know if I'm going to answer it clearly or I understood your question. Before we came to the university, we started as SOS. This is how the journey started. From SOS, we landed at Vugani Mawetu High School. And then the Vugani Mawetu offered their premises for us to use after school and weekends. So, but there were challenges there because of the security for our instruments. So when you approached us and said we could partner with the university and move over to the Mamelodi campus, that was kind of a giant step from where we were to where we are now. So, and even before, I mean, part of the focus has been to provide the background, the necessary background for the students that would want to proceed at tertiary levels in music. So now being at the university actually provides that. And then our wish is to have more students that we train feeding into the music program at UP, you know, yeah. Because before we came here, most of our students went through to TUT, some went to UCT. So now being here, it makes more sense for us to work hand in hand with the university, I mean, with the Department of Music, so that we can be a feeder into their program.
Yeah,
Jesse,
no, I understand that.
If I
Go
may,
ahead, Mageshen.
if I may interject, can you maybe elaborate a little bit about the range of the instruments that you have trained in terms of the students? You know, what kinds of instruments are we looking at? And of course, you've also, as part of your project, you've created employment for teachers who come in and tutor some of the instruments. Can you maybe just give us an idea about that?
Okay, the range of instruments. Okay, maybe before I get into the range of instruments, let me mention the age range, because that's also a determining factor as to what kind of an instrument a learner can take up. Our age, we start from the age of 6 school going up to 20. And then we do have some older students that we are a bit flexible in terms of the time. And then from time to time, we get students who are younger than 6, and then we find it very difficult to turn them away. So now, at that age, the entrance instrument is a recorder for a number of reasons. A recorder is a cheaper instrument, and then it actually makes it easy for those students who would want to learn saxophone.
Yes.
They make much more progress than those that would move from recorder to trumpet because of the embouchure and all that. And then now, after the recorder, spending time on the recorder, the students have the opportunity to choose whatever instrument of their liking. So we have on the brass, we have trumpet, and trombone, and then we have on the saxophones, alto saxophone, tenor saxophone, and then we have drums as well, and percussions. We have guitar, electric guitar, I mean electric bass, and we also have double bass, cello, violins, and piano.
Wow, that's a whole range, and of course, then
Yes.
you have tutors who come in through your school who are helping some of these students.
Yes.
Okay, that's fantastic.
And these are local artists mainly that you sort of enlist to come and support the tuition and the training?
Yes, mostly are local artists. Some of them are our own proteges, the students that we trained, and then they developed an interest in working with us. And then we also try to partner with other organizations or programs. And then we have, for a number of years, we had teachers that were coming from Davidton on the saxophone and trombone. Yes.
Another interesting feature of your program, there are two. One, you've got a women's ensemble, a women's jazz program as part of your activities. And then you also have an international component where you've taken your learners, your ensembles abroad, overseas, both to the United States and to Europe, for exposure and participation in international platforms, and have also brought international artists to your Mamelodi and to South Africa to come and workshop your learners. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, let me start off with the women's ensemble. This is called Jazz Camp for Female Instrumentalists. Around, when was it? 2008, I think. We sent 3 girls to Norway to attend the camp. And then when they came back, they were inspired to form their own organization. And then they went there in September. In November, December, they did their first camp assisted by the Norwegians. And then after that, they were able to continue on their own. They have grown, they've registered the organization. And then, so if we fundraise, always we think about the jazz camp for female instrumentalist component as well. So we work hand in hand so that we help them and they also help us. And then as a matter of fact, for them to focus on the girls, it means a lot, and then it's a great venture. So, and then the European tours as well, we had partnership with a school in Delft called Freya Academy. So that was based on the twin sister relationship between the city of Tshwane, Mamelodi, and Delft. So based on that, we were able to forge a partnership. That was a 3-year contract from 2007, from 2004 to 2007, which ended with a showcase in the Netherlands. We provided the music, and the kids in the Netherlands, they provided the acting part of it. So it was a musical. And then we had an opportunity to get funding from the lottery, which enabled us to attend our Jazz Education Network conference. But prior to that, I think we are missing a point there. We went to the SAJE in Cape Town. I think it was in 2010. It was there that we met Mary Jo Papich and the whole entourage from the Gen. So we were invited to take part in the Gen in New Orleans. That was in 2011. And then we went back again 2012 to Kentucky, but with a smaller ensemble. The first ensemble, we were 23 in number. And the second time when we went to Kentucky, I think there was only 12 of us. Yes.
And you've also brought artists like Christian McBride to Mamelodi to come and workshop with the students in your ensemble?
Yes, how it actually came about, especially with Christian, he was only coming to play with Pat Metheny, and then a friend hooked him up with me. So he spent a lot of time with us, and then he did some workshops. That was when we were still at Vugani Mawetu. We also had musicians like Helen Sang, we had Ndugu Chancellor, we had Rara Jazz Quartet, it was from Italy, and then Patrick Scale from Germany. Yeah, so the list is like, and then that is on the international level, but we had musicians, local musicians that we invited, and they honored our invitation, like the late Mama Makeba and Feya Faku, McCoy Mokubata, Selailo Solota, who else came, and yeah, and Paul, who's Paul, the pianist. Yes, we had a lot of musicians locally because, I mean, the whole idea, or especially of inviting local musicians to come to our program, is based on the fact that it wouldn't make sense for us to be talking about George Benson, whereas there's Philip Dawan across the street, there's Miriam Makeba that we could invite and then have some time with the kids. So that was the whole idea. Sometimes we invite musicians, they hit the call, some they're not into workshops and all that. Yeah.
Now,
I think the pianist
being
you
at the
mentioned was Paul Hamner.
Paul
Hemner,
yes,
that's
Paul
right.
Hamner.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember he did mention when I spoke to him about his time with your outfit. But I mean, being at the university, on the university campus, you already alluded to this earlier on about trying to make the connection between studying music and mastery of instruments and a career in music, further studying to the university. That's been something we've been trying to sort of get off the ground, and hopefully we will be able to strengthen that effort, because I think it's a wonderful opportunity to build the capacity and transfer the skills. But outside of that, I mean, you've always talked about the strong character formation that the discipline of learning music and mastering an instrument requires, that is transferable to a healthy life in the community for the young people and a healthy outlook towards life. Could you just touch that before we conclude? I'm not sure what our time looks like.
Yes, I strongly believe that when you train a good musician or a good artist, you produce a good citizen. And the kids that we taught music, not all of them, from the onset, we knew that not all of them would go into becoming performers. Some of them, they went and studied BCom, but they could actually attest to the fact that music played a role in ensuring that they succeeded in their studies, for the simple reason that the kind of discipline that is required in learning an instrument and practicing. So most of them, they would take that discipline into their studies. So that's how it helped them succeed in whatever field of study they embarked on. Yeah.
Thank you, Jesse. That sums it up. I just want to say thank you for the work that you do. Also in this region, because I think this region doesn't get highlighted enough. In the broader scheme of things, people think of they usually think of Pretoria and they think of Tshwane, but there has been so much. Besides when I think about jazz artists, the one that's international now is Tutu Powane. She came from Mamelodi, and then there's Dr. Philip Tabane, of course, well known. But there's also the Mogale brothers, a very, very important family of musicians in this region, and yourself, Jesse, the work that you have done to bring to young people not just music, of course, and like you highlighted, it's all the characteristics that the discipline of music brings about, making better citizens and better students, and for better outcomes for everything. And I hope that we can continue this relationship and reinforce this relationship with the University of Pretoria, and to move from strength to strength with other projects, to really move your your vision forward. So thanks again for doing this. Edwin,
It's a pleasure.
Any parting words, Edwin?
No, thank you. It's always a pleasure, and I'm very happy to share this with Jesse. We continue to build this partnership and relationship, and very strong in support of the effort, the difference they make in the community, and the benefits of our association with the work they do in the communities is wonderful for us as well. So it's a privilege and an honor.
Great. Thank you, gentlemen.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.